Coming up on this episode of We're No Damn Experts, we're diving into a hidden gem in Great Falls that's connected to our museums, our history, our culture, and you can do a little investigating as well.
Best damn podcast, the best damn town. You want to get up, get ready to get down. With its big wide sky and the wild river Thames, if you want to go, we can take you there to Great Falls, Montana.
Welcome to the greatest damn town in Montana, Great Falls. I'm Rebecca Ingham.
I'm Shannon Noof,
and we're No Damn Experts. I love how smelly cat my voice still is. So, folks, you're just going to have to bear with it.
You should sing the theme song instead of Joel while your voice is like that.
I can't sing it regardless. I could do Smelly Cat.
Yeah.
I could handle that one real well. Folks, I'm sorry. I feel
It'll
great.
be a bonus episode.
Everything's fantastic. I just sound gross. So,
'tis the season.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to the podcast. Shannon, you've now taken this new approach of not telling me anything about what's happening.
Yeah.
I've introduced myself to the two women that are in this studio. I have an inkling of what one knows. I have learned a small percentage of things that they're involved in, but I have no idea why you've lured them here into our podcast studio.
Yeah.
So why don't you share with me and the rest of the people listening what's on tap today?
Well, I think I should share that when we schedule this podcast, I schedule our guests and I just send a calendar invite to Rebecca. And I've decided I just was like, podcast with Jan.
Yep.
That's
all that
that's all
shows
she
up.
got. So that's what we're going. Yes. So we have Jan and Stacey here today. I'm so excited to get to talk with them about a bit of a hidden gem in our community, the Genealogy Society.
Oh.
Is that what you thought it was?
No, I didn't have any idea. I mean, I knew they were connected to that, but I didn't know that's what we were going to be discussing.
Yes. So I'll before I hand it over and let you all take it away from here. I met Jan because she is a big fan of Alma Smith Jacobs, and she was one of the people I interviewed as part of our Feisty Women documentary. So that's where Jan and I got to spend some time together.
Yeah, I recognized Jan when she was here. I'm like, oh, movie star Jan.
Yeah.
So I know who that is now.
Yeah.
So let's get started with introduce yourselves, telling us the sordid history of your life.
This is really a tell-all.
Can we say assorted and not sorted?
There you go, yeah.
We'd love to know where you guys are from. Are you Great Falls gals? How long you've been here? What you've done in the community? What you're doing now?
Keep in mind, we do have a limited time frame.
A brief highlight, if you will,
highlight
of your
reel.
sordid
Yeah.
affairs. So I'll kick off with Stacey first.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yay.
So I'm Stacey. I am currently the president of the Genealogy Society here in Great Falls. I am also a vice president on the Montana State Genealogical Society board.
Oh my goodness.
Jan got me roped into the first one, and the second one just kind of went with the flow. So yeah. I am sort of a native of Great Falls. My dad was in the military, so we retired here in 82. My mom grew up here. I live on the family farm that she grew up on, that I grew up on. So my husband and I are back out there. And
Oh, that's neat.
so
What do you farm?
we're gentlemen farmers.
Okay.
We look at our land.
Nice. The best kind.
Yeah.
The best kind.
You mow a lot?
Oh, I
I'm
do
guessing?
mow a lot.
I
Yes,
would guess.
I do
Yep.
mow a lot. We our house and outbuildings are probably half an acre to an acre that I do, and then we've
nice.
got some pasture that we lease out. But
Perfect.
the family farm itself is my uncle's.
Nice.
So, so I call us gentlemen
Yeah.
farmers. We raise cats, maybe.
Lovely.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
have some
That's
good thing
barn-
out in that
barn
area.
cats,
Mhm.
So
Yeah, they need.
and they
need
do
a spot.
they do a decent job. So
Good deal.
that's great. My mom did genealogy. I don't forever, as far as I can remember, and I got involved probably 10 or so years ago, maybe longer than that. And then it kind of got busy with life. And then the last 5 or so years, I've really gotten into it more so. So I volunteer twice a week down there at the library to help other people find their dead people. And so, yeah, and I do my own.
We see dead people. Is that your theme?
We do
Yeah,
see
your
dead
slogan?
people.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, so I do my own research for my own family, and yeah, it's a great time.
Nice.
All right, Jen,
Ah,
let's dig into your life.
okay. I may not look it, but I have been here for 54 years. I
goodness.
came here.
Oh,
I came here as a kid teacher. I student taught here in 67
my goodness.
and then had a wonderful, fantastical career with the Great Falls Public Schools, first as a junior high, middle school teacher. I know, people shudder when I say that. They are wonderful. They're just great kiddos. And then I spent 17 years on what I call the dark side in administration. As director of curriculum and research for the school system. It was a fantastic career.
My gosh.
Had a lot of fun. Did I mention I retired at 50?
Ooh.
I
That's
had
the
my
dream,
years in. I
huh?
had my years in, and then I did educational consulting and statistical work for the government and stuff like that. You know, stuff you
goodness.
can do in your jammies.
I was like, that's
at
not
home.
really being retired, though.
Yeah. Oh, it's fun.
Yeah.
And then I found genealogy.
Mm.
And I have a research degree in the first place, so it really fit for me.
Yeah.
And walking in and finding out that people had this wonderful idea exactly 50 years ago this year, that they would start a genealogy society, but they would be different than other genealogy societies. They would find a space and find a place and actually have a library. And today we believe we are the 6th largest genealogy library in the Northwest.
Oh my goodness,
Look
that's
at
fantastic!
that
I know.
superlative
Little
that we've
gem.
got for Great Falls.
Love that.
So we've been a few places, but we have been at the public library now for 16 years. We take care of the Montana room collection on the 3rd floor. Usually we hear people say, I didn't even know there was a 3rd floor.
Yeah.
But we take care of that 4 hours a day, 12 o'clock until 4 o'clock, 6 days a week. And then on Sundays, we're in there 3 hours. It enables our wonderful public library to keep that 3rd floor space open for researchers, for family researchers, and people who just want to know a little more about Great Falls. It's an enchanting place. I believe that Montana room is also the largest Montana room in the public libraries in Montana. If it's not, don't tell me because I'll be crushed.
Well, we're just
Hey.
going to go with it. That's what we do on this podcast. So,
Jen,
yeah.
you say it with authority. It just becomes true.
Yes, there you go. Okay, so we just did. It is. We have wonderful volunteers. We are all volunteers. We take care of the Montana room first. That is our prime destination. If we happen to have an emergency and somebody had to leave, then we will only man or woman or whatever the Montana room, because that is very important to us. It's very important to the history of Great Falls. And if you haven't been up there to see some of the one-of-a-kind stuff that's there, you need to do it. The 3rd floor is a hot place.
What kind of one of a kind things are up there? Like, could you pick 2 or 4 that you're like, these are the neat things that I like?
Oh, I certainly can. Let's talk about the first women in Great Falls who really did not appear in city directories. Their husbands did, but they did not for quite some time. But if you want to find out who they are, then come and look at the records for the Great Falls Circulating Library at that point, because it will tell you all the women. And believe me, they were the major people who were in there. So that's a pretty cool thing.
I love how Jan just teases that. She's not going to give us the information. You got
No,
to
you
go
gotta
down
go
and
see
get it.
I love. Yep.
You
I
have
love
to do that.
Right on theme.
Yeah, it's so maybe you're looking for a one-on item like maybe a yearbook for Nyhart, which only had a high school for a couple of years. And there will be one.
Hey.
Maybe you're
Ooh.
looking for the treasures of, some people are geeks like me, so they're looking for the treasures where it's a one-of-a-kind report on Native people and the report was published in 1906 or 1905, and we have those in the Montana room. We have all kinds of things. If you haven't seen the wonderful, wonderful windows out of the original Valeria Library, they are there.
About that.
They are there.
They're beautiful.
I've heard of that.
Beautiful table, it right in the center of that space that you can tell it's been through many lives. In fact, gas lights used to light that table, and you can see where they were. But it's beautifully refinished, beautifully done, and researchers get to use that all the time. Or maybe it's Paris Gibson's original desk from the state capitol down in Helena, and we were privileged to receive that desk along with the list of all the other people who had used it when they got new furniture. So we have books, we have materials. It's a law library. I love that part. The nerdy in me, it gets to it all the time, because when people say, I'm trying to find something, I'll say, there had to be a law about it. And if there had to be a law,
it had to be recorded.
There's a record. There's going to be a whole set of records with those things. So think law and think records and say, it's going to happen. Even that young male who came in, turned 21 in our county, didn't have any land yet, didn't have anything. But do you know he had to pay a poll tax? It's actually a road tax. And he also had to pay a tax to help take care of the poor. And so you're going to find those people in records you wouldn't think about.
Yeah.
And so behind that Montana room, if you walk straight through to the back, we have a pretty large space back there.
You do. When I first saw it, it was this whole other world back there that I didn't know what was behind the door, but there's people working back there, huge shelves, files, desks.
The Wizard of Oz.
Ooh, yeah.
Is that where the genealogy stuff happens?
It is.
It is.
It
Okay.
is. It is.
So as we dig into genealogy, I think most people are familiar with the 23andMe cheek swab stuff. Are we swabbing cheeks at the genealogy
No.
place?
No,
Are
we
we-
will tell you how to do it.
We will not swap spit with you.
Are we only looking for dead people, or do you find alive people too?
Yes, to both.
Okay.
More dead than alive.
More dead than alive. Okay.
Occasionally, we may even have people come in, looking for ghosts. We haven't been able to help too many of them, but we could tell them about their house a little bit. Because they'll come and say, I think that house is haunted. Did anyone die in that house? And so we can help them find out whether or not they did.
I had a couple come in a couple of weeks ago, and they were looking at buying a house in Great Falls, and they wanted some weird things. They wouldn't go into any detail, and so they wanted to know the history. And so we have a subscription to newspapers.com, which is all the digitized newspapers, and we popped in their address, and they got a kind of a snippet shot of the history of their house, and nothing illicit happened that was recorded in the paper, so they felt better.
This is like a whole new world of partnerships, right? You guys with the Realtors Association. Oh my gosh.
I will tell you, if I'd known to even consider that, I probably would. But I did have a friend who told me, when you move into your new house, you need to sage it. And so I was like, oh, okay. Like that seems like an easy thing to do. So the day we moved in, we got everything moved in, got a bed set up, slept. The next morning, I woke up and I was saging our house while my husband slept. He was not impressed. He's like, what the holy are you doing? And I'm like, nothing. Just go back to sleep. And he's like, no, something's happening here. I'd really love to know what you're doing in our new home. So I probably researched it.
There you go. Yeah. Do you, multi-part question. Do you think that the library or Montana Room or genealogy area is haunted? And follow up, or maybe first, do you believe in those things?
Yeah, I'm
Come on, Jan.
I'm a scientist, so I listen always courteously to stories, and then listen as people try to prove or disprove them. And I know that I'm probably not going to change this story, but I might give them some gentle hints as to what could cause it. We have had people who have come into our presentations, because we have presentations once a month in our general meeting. We have had at least one who came in and suggested, ghosting in Great Falls, and it's fine. You're always going to have those things, but I'm probably, yeah.
She's against, I think.
Yeah.
How about you?
So I do think that there are things that we can't see and can't explain. But the practical side of me says that can't be real. But I leave it out there as a possibility.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Our house, when we were having it remodeled, after my mom passed away, it was during COVID, so it took a little longer than normal.
Yeah.
Feel your pain there.
Right. And our contractor asked me if my dad, who and both parents are deceased, was a prankster, and I was like, not really. Why are you asking me this question?
So random.
And they had been seeing things out at the house, and one of his coworker liked to swear a lot, and my mom did not like certain words in that language. And I advised him to stop. You should probably stop doing that. You're really making her irritated. And he ended up quitting. I don't know if that was the reason. I guess we'll never know.
Well, if he can't swear on the job,
right?
it's not for him, I guess.
Yeah.
But I did. I went out there. We were out there one day when they weren't working. And I was like, all right, look, Mom.
We need this done.
We need this done. You need to stop. And things did slow down and not didn't happen afterwards. So I also belong to Eastern Star, and the Masonic Temple here in Great Falls is I have not had anything happen to me. I've had people that I believe have told me stories that happened down there.
Yeah.
I just say, I know you're there. Can we just agree to that you stay in your place, I'll stay in mine, and we'll just agree to live separately.
Yeah.
And just, you don't have to do anything to me to prove your point.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
I'll let you be, you let me be.
Right. So far it's worked.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. If not, stick your mom on him.
Right.
Like, Mom, can you transfer over here for a little bit?
Oh, if you only knew Vicky like we knew Vicky.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So do you think, has there been any, I don't even know
I've
right word in the library at all? That you know?
I've never heard of anything.
No, I haven't heard of anything. But remember, this is what we would think of as the new library. It was
Correct.
built in
Yeah.
about 67, and so we're
Yeah.
still talking about it as the new one.
Yeah.
And
Where was the old one?
right
Because
beside it,
the same
across
area.
the street. Yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
There were actually 3: the Valeria, and then the Carnegie, and it was small. And then
And wasn't that part of Alma's
yes,
quest, was to bring them all together in a
Alma
big
tried. Alma
facility?
tried 3 times, 3 levies, and finally succeeded on the 3rd levy again, because I believe she knew how to go around and get around and do it in a really neat way. I am a super admirer of her. But our library today is where it is and what it is because of her. People don't realize that when she came in, she started making sure that the collection was cataloged. And we still have evidence of that on the 3rd floor in those books, because they're archival books. They don't check out.
Yeah.
And they don't realize that she started, the entire idea of having a bus go around with books. I mean,
Yeah.
The funny thing, I have to share this with you real quick, Jan, that right before the documentary aired, I was like, I just need a shot of the bookmobile with Alma's face on it. And I had talked to Susie, the librarian. It's like, okay, I'm going to come down to the library. It usually comes back by late afternoon. I'll go to the library then. I had swung by there. It wasn't back yet. So I came up here. I was getting out. I got my stuff out of the car and I was literally walking into the office, and then I did a double take. It was sitting in our parking lot. And so I was like, perfect. So I just ran over and got a couple shots of it real quick. But I didn't even register when I first pulled up that that's what I was waiting for. And I was like, oh, perfect.
There it is.
So
Nice.
it comes to our parking lot occasionally. Yeah.
well, it's, when you look at our public library, it's been such a perfect thing for us to be able to be in the library with them, because we just really complement one another. They have, of course, a lot of material from Great Falls, one of a kind. Go in there and look at biographies where it's the only copy. It is it. They have it.
Wow.
So when you look at that library, it's a real gem. But for us, it also means that we can take the things that we have collected from 55 other counties in Montana that are one of a kind that people put together there, and we've managed to get a copy of something that was quite restricted in terms of the copies they could make. But we have it right here for them to look at.
Do you want me to submit some of my annuals for the Montana Room?
Depends. Where did you go to school?
Ooh.
Whitewater High School.
Oh, yes.
Mighty Mighty Penguin.
Yeah.
And this is completely off topic, but as you're talking about that, we have one of the most rare annuals, I think, in the state of Montana. Here I'm making just claims.
Yeah.
We had submitted an annual for 1994. However, when we submitted this was back in the day where everything was laid out on grid paper and it was a hard copy that you had to send in, and then they made the annuals. It was lost in the flood.
Oh no.
So we didn't have a 94 annual.
Wow.
We had a 94, 95 annual where we put together a few things from 94 that we still had. Of course, nothing was digital.
Yeah.
And so we had to find photos that we could recreate or reproduce because we had a dark room.
Dark room. Yeah.
Same thing. So we were able to get photos together, get some senior pictures together so we could at least pay homage to the 94 class in our 95 annual. So it's a dual year because of a flood.
Oh,
wow.
So
How unique is that?
we
That's
have we
very
have a
much so.
partnership with the library, Montana History Museum, and us to get annuals housed in a certain location in Great Falls.
Oh, that would be
so that
cool.
we're not all holding the same thing.
Yeah, so you can have a one
So
stop.
we actually take the smaller schools annuals at the genealogy library.
Yes,
So
we do.
if you have any annuals from those little towns that you don't want anymore, bring them on by.
even if you want them, I might copy them.
Yeah.
I mean, they're
She's
rare.
very
They're
excited.
rare. I mean, you find things from, Nyhart. I
Yeah.
mean, seriously.
Yeah,
2 or
that's
3
pretty
years of a
rare.
school is very, very rare.
Didn't
Yeah.
even know they had a school
Uh-uh.
there.
Yeah.
And so when you're looking at that, that's what we're there to do. We started, we went to the county commissioners in 2003, 2004 and said, what do you have over there in the county courthouse? And they said, well, we have a basement full. Yeah, but what do you have? Well, they had never been able to do a full catalog of everything that they had there.
Wow.
So they knew, from documents from the state what they had to retain, but they didn't know what was there. So we went into partnership with them for 2.5 years, went down there with a
Did an
group of 7.
inventory.
Yeah, and did an inventory of everything. They opened up other areas, the sheriff's department, et cetera. Everything except city county health, of course.
Yeah.
But we went in, did that inventory, and it was a big deal because during the 30s and the 40s, when we had all kinds of WPA projects, other states got that done that way. Other counties did. We didn't. So we have been able to do that and then advise them as to what they needed to keep, where they needed to store things, what they needed to do. And so that's been a nice partnership too.
Wow.
And then we've taken the final step. One of our goals is to conserve records. When you conserve records today, it can't be just paper. We would love it. But of course, the county ran out of space. We ran out of space. And so one of the things that we've got going right now that you're going to want to see is we have a project that's been going on 2.5 years with Family Search, and they have been scanning all of 3 of our companies here, our local companies, all of their mortuary records out online.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
So that they are available to people. And the neat thing is they're also free out there.
Nice.
So we've done a variety of things. We were responsible about 14, 15 years ago for that same group doing and getting hold of all of our naturalizations. They had never been scanned.
Interesting.
They had never been microfilmed. That's an important thing in proofs. So we spend a lot of time actually doing those things. We have all in our area, we have the original marriage records for our county. Why do we have them and not the History Museum? We split that thing out again so that we have the people who can do the indexing and do the things and that are there every single day to provide a copy. On the other hand, they have other really important things that are there, like architectural records, etc. So those are really nice partnerships. It's a really fun thing. I call it my playhouse because it's my happy place.
Yeah.
So let's get back to the genealogy component, because I'd love for our listeners to kind of get a picture of why they would want to engage. I think we've done a good job of explaining why you'd want to engage in the Montana Room. It's kind of a cool thing. Side note, before I get to my full question, I love going up to the Black Eagle Community Center, and they've got the walls there of all the like previous employees of the Anaconda
do.
Smelter Company.
Oh, that's neat.
And
Yeah.
it feels like in my high school, talking about annuals, when you walk down the hall, you've got everybody's senior picture in a frame by year. And so you can start from the beginning of the school, go all the way to current year and go, interesting hairstyle in that era, you know? And it just kind of reinforces for me in the school I grew up in, is these are the people that came before you.
Right. Yep.
And this hallway has been home to so many people who thought they were as cool as you are now, you know? And that's the same feeling I get at the Black Eagle Community Center when you get to look at, these are the people from the Anaconda's company. And it puts that face to a company that you didn't know anything about, but you're like, that dude did this, you know, and look at his picture and how they did that. So, all that of a big tangent to go, if you're really looking for something unique to do, hang out at the Black Eagle Community Center and look at the pictures. But what else can visitors, when they come to Great Falls, get from the Genealogy Center that you think is the most unique, that they wouldn't be thinking, oh, that would be a neat stop?
Oh, genealogy tourism, because it is a big thing. And, when we're looking at it, of course, we're going to have people who come in here specifically looking for records from here. And we're a really good place for that, or to advise them where to go to get other things. We have over 10,000 books. Yeah.
That's a lot of books.
Yeah, it's the door to Narnia.
We have
You have a wardrobe we can go into as well.
Yeah. We have 3 computers that people can use, and we train them. We work with them. We have probably 12 large databases from across the world. We have people who specialize, for instance, in being able to tell people about Germans from Russia, primary people that came to the West. We have people who can tell people about the Irish who came here. Or maybe you're all the way back to the Pilgrims and very excited. And I can tell you, we have 7 new books, new information never known this month about Pilgrims who came in 1620.
Oh my gosh.
So don't think that it's all old stuff. There's new things being created because people have gone to England and actually looked at records or whatever.
Wow.
And we listen to our public. But here's a public that, we continue to collect and we continue to do things. In 2005, we made kind of a special thing and said, we're going to begin to really collect information on our indigenous population.
Oh.
Okay. And so in our indigenous population, when you look at our local tribe, I kid you not, we have over 60 books.
Oh, that is neat.
From a person who went to the Manitoba archives, spent 20 years copying records.
Oh my goodness.
And made sure that we had those. And then we got a grant to be able to get the materials. And so those are the things we have. We have homestead maps.
Oh.
Where, and we can also show you how to go out to Glow Records, find your family. That's a big deal. Then find out how to get the 50 to 100 page, Yeah, they're that big. Article about specifically your
Wow.
family. I mean, I saw my grandpa's drawings of his corral,
That's so neat.
and his
yeah.
granary and his chicken coops, because
Wow.
he was proud. Besides his 10 by 20 house, that
Yeah.
he had that. They are there. They are available, of course, from NARA, from the National Archives, to be able to see those things and to actually be able to map them, look at them, and provide a more complete picture of your family. Or how about the women in Montana? We had a lot of women homesteaders,
Mm-hmm.
and they were frequently educators. And they did well. They managed the classroom, and at the same time, they managed and successfully completed their homestead.
I mean, that is what Paris wanted. He wanted the
Mhm.
men to show up here, and the only way to get men was to have women.
Yep,
yeah, that's right.
Brilliant man.
Uh-huh.
We had some pretty cool people. Yeah.
Mhm.
So tell me, and this is skewing a little bit. I get that. Can you, at the genealogy, which is not connected to genealogy at all, trace the history of the land? Like if I
Yes. Yes.
I have this place, but I want to know who all owned it
Mhm.
before me.
Yes, because we're going to take you over to the clerk and recorder's office for this place, or we're going to tell you how to go to another place and actually trace that history. We're also going to hear, because we know that the tax records are on that third floor over at the History Museum, we're able to tell you when and where you can look at those tax records to also fill in those other records that you already have that you're looking for in land, so you know exactly what was ever raised there, what was taxed there. The tax books are beautiful. They weigh 75 pounds, so you have to tell them beforehand that you need them. You can't just go in there and say, "Hi, I'd like 1940." That won't work, and it shouldn't.
Oh my goodness.
But yes, I mean, everything we do that I look at, you all are aware of the fact that Great Falls kind of, it's known as the museums and the research place in many things. So we don't look at ourselves as a single source. We're willing to show people where they need to go in the community, other things that they can find. And we have a really neat informal group among three of us, the History Museum and the Public Library and the Great Falls Genealogy Library, called Meeting of the Minds.
Ooh,
That's
that
appropriate.
sounds fun.
Mhm.
And so we look
Do
at
you
our...
need a new member?
Yeah, we'll take you.
I'll find someone smart.
Yeah, we're interested in looking at our collections collectively and saying, what do you have that I don't need to collect or whatever, and how can we tell people about it, and how can we do finder things for those, so that we all work together and work for the benefit of those genealogy tourists. So it's really great. We love that we have baseball here in the summer. We have various things going on, because if a guy or a gal doesn't want to do genealogy and their spousal unit does, we think we have places for them to go and things for them to do here in Great Falls.
Absolutely.
So talking about your land, so something up in the library, genealogy library, that you could do is look at the census records and who are their neighbors, and then go to city directories. So my family came here in 1903 and settled out in the Castner Falls area, which is where I'm living. I don't live about 4 miles from where my double great had his land. His son had land basically around the corner from where he lived. And so through the GLOW records, I got the homestead records. But in the city directories, you can go back and it'll say how many acres did they have? How much was the value of that acreage at that time?
Yep.
So you can keep track of, it was worth $1,000 this year, but next year it was worth $2,000, or maybe it went down. He got more land. He only had 160 acres this year, but now he has 320. What happened? He bought some land in there. So within our library, we can guide you to start that process, to then go tax records, go over to the clerk of courts and get deeds and those kind of things. So it's kind of a jumping off point to start your research.
Huh.
Yeah. And you can do things then like, okay, even though he didn't have any kids, he was getting a kid the next year. He didn't know it yet because she was pregnant. But so beginning that second year, you can even look at that family in school census records, because every October, all kids 0 to 21 were recorded every year in the school census. It had nothing to do with the school you attended.
Well,
It
yeah,
only
so-
had to do with county planning and
Ooh.
planning for areas to say, do we need a school there? Do we need, what kind of other facilities do we need there? And that was done each October. So the bonus is you get the dad's name.
Maybe.
You get the, yeah. You get
Well, because they might be under guardianship
Yeah.
with somebody else. So there's been some
Oh.
school censuses you look at, and the last name of the parent,
the, is not the
I air quote,
surname.
no one
Yeah.
can see that, is not the same as the child.
Yeah.
So you might find that the kiddo got sent over to grandma and grandpa or the aunt and uncles
Yep.
because the parents couldn't take care of them.
Mhm.
So that gets you another line of research.
Yeah.
Because when you research your family, you really want to go lateral at some point because you want those friends and families, because that tells a story of your family. What was their life like? Who did they live next to? They moved together in groups. So when you get stuck going back, you now need to go sideways and look at all those. And those school records could potentially show you another family member you didn't know anything about.
And if you're looking at it and they didn't have a birth certificate, they've
Yep.
been used as a legitimate record,
Yep.
a state record for birth.
Huh.
Yep.
And because they will tell you the birth date. They
Yeah.
will tell you how old the kid is, who's there in that house, and who else is there. Who are the other kids?
Huh. Interesting.
So my
So-
mom grew up, out there. She went to a one-room schoolhouse until she was in 3rd grade, and then went to Cascade. So we actually have, along with school census records, we have all these little schools,
The records.
the records from these schools. I was able to find her the grade book for her, how well she did in school.
Oh my gosh.
Which wasn't spectacular, but
Yeah.
that's okay.
Like,
She
I
was a
thought we got
chatter-
to move on from
Right?
that.
Well,
Yeah.
she was a chatterbox. She fully admitted
Yeah.
that's why she didn't do well in school, because she chattered a lot. So, but you get, so in like the Castner Falls box, when I went through, I found out that my grandmother was a clerk for the school out there for quite a few years. I have my records for my mom. I have, all of those records of all those kids that went to school out there that they're not digitized anywhere. I mean, you can't go online and Google it. It's not there.
Yeah.
We have a wall of them.
We do. We have a wall of boxes of them.
Wow.
Mhm.
So you have the military connection as well, and this question is connected to that. We get a lot of guests who come in and like, I was stationed here and whatever else. Do we have the ability to kind of trace some of that connection of people who were stationed here, maybe just for a short period of time, lived on base, weren't in some of these areas? Can we still document that they were here at some point?
Yes, we can.
Look at that.
Yes, we can. We can. We can advise you to go out to that wonderful museum out on the base, and they may have more of the directories. We don't have very many of the base directories, but we also had many people who lived in town. We can also tell you that, if you were a base kid, then of course, from the 40s on, those base kids went to the local little school out there. Then they went first to west and then to north. That was their school, and then they were going to attend CMR High School unless their family had a physical residence in another part of town. So those base kids can be traced, for example, in their high school years through CM Russell. It won't be all of them, but we can give you the picture so that you can do it. They are going to appear no matter what in that school census.
That's right.
It does not change it at all that they're out on base and you wouldn't find them otherwise. And I would say probably still during our prime period of time for kids up through the end of the 70s, 75 to 80% of the families had kids, active kids, in school at the time. So you're going to find a great deal through that, and also through city records. But the other thing you're going to find that's really hidden here is you need to look in the newspapers to see those bowling scores. Because even in World War II, when you could not officially find people and we didn't have very many directories, we had bowling scores, and this was a bowling town, let me tell you.
Really?
I
Big bowling history, huh?
I have found that. I have found some of my relatives in Milwaukee in bowling records in the newspapers.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know. I surmise who it is by the first initial because I just have the last name. But yeah, there was a couple. I was like, "What is this?" I'm like, "Oh, okay, good to know."
Long line
Yeah.
of bowlers.
Wow.
That's yep.
And you mentioned the Anaconda Company. Well, the Anaconda Company, they were big bowlers. They all went by their area, their plant area. If they were in a particular thing, if they were an electrician or they were, whatever, they all went by that on their bowling teams. They did not integrate too much across those. So you're going to
Yeah.
see
They didn't get
who
too
finally
creative.
Very siloed corporations.
Yeah.
Huh.
So it's really fun to see. I mean, that's an active history. And of course,
Yeah.
we have not all of them, but we have quite a few. And I'm sure Megan over at the History Museum also has quite a few of the original publications, especially through World War II, when you won't find as much deliberately. You won't find as much about the town because, of course, we were all under this thing of don't tell the Germans too much.
Yeah.
Don't tell anyone too much.
Yeah.
So the city directories are sparse until 1949, and then they start up again. But there are many other kinds of records you can go to. If I'm looking at, I did a podcast this last week. Well, I've recorded it. The people didn't get to listen to it because we had power outages in Great Falls, as you know. But talking about how you use a cookbook out in Stockett, San Coulee,
you were
to
telling
find
Those
the
are
women.
the coolest things.
To find the women.
Yeah.
Because they're there and great guns. They'll do things like say, hey, this is it. And they all had a very close connection to Great Falls. Those people may have lived out there, but the mines were gone quite early. They may have lived out there, but they still came into town. And so they were Great Falls people. They were.
Wow.
You've hit on a topic that excites me. How many
Rural
small
cookbooks.
town cookbooks do you have?
They only let me collect in the library what I can. Stacy's laughing because she knows they only let me collect where I can really find names and prove it. And then I admit it, I'm a nerd. I index those suckers.
Oh,
So
I
do you
do.
have your own home library full of rural cookbooks that they
No.
won't let you put in the library? Okay.
No,
there's nothing better than looking at those old cookbooks from a town that says Mrs. Harold Smith's recipe for them. Like, I would love to know more about Mrs. Harold Smith. Like, because this is a weird recipe.
Yeah.
How did she come up with this? Like, just the questions that come from that entire experience.
Yeah.
I love it. I've got a hometown cookbook, of course. That
Do you?
yes,
Oh, Jan wants that too.
I do.
because we used to have this perfect season for it. We used to have Lenten. Sorry, this is just not coming out good because of my nasal. Dinners Wednesday night before Lenten church services. There was this woman in our community that would bring this dish that was fantastic. She didn't bring it all the time, and I'm like, please, maybe you could bring that dish again. And she's like, I don't know what one you're talking about. I'm like, every time there's a community cookbook, I'm pouring through it. Like, did you submit it for this? She has no idea. I'm like, it has water chestnuts in it. And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, woman.
Anyway, there are just lots of ways to be able to put information together.
Yeah.
We don't think so much of Great Falls as being rural, but we are. And lots of people here have rural connections within the town. I think of Great Falls as an agglomeration of lots of small communities. When I first came here 50-some years ago, I was on the west side, and it was wonderful. I mean, they were a little tiny community, and they took care of me. They took care of my daughter. That's a wonderful place. But genealogy-wise, we've been fortunate in terms of our friendships and our abilities to be able to land in a great place like the Great Falls Public Library. I think I know, Stacey, you would agree. It's a fun place, a good place where we can all gather. And, it's like I told him last Sunday, I said, I got slammed. I was in here. I had 6 clients. I was by myself. I was running from table to table.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Do you get people who call? We get people who call. So this is a practical thing. Do you get people who call you and say, does Shelley Smith still live in Great Falls?
Yeah.
Actually, I did have something like that. So I had a lady call, and she was researching. I don't know, she wasn't really researching, but she
wanted you to research.
She wanted me to research her ex-husband's wife, ex-husband's wife that she used to go to college with, and she wanted to know if she was still alive.
Oh.
Huh.
I'm like,
So-
okay. Well, and she says, well, I have an address and a
Why?
phone number. I'm like, have you tried calling that number?
Yeah.
Or visiting.
Have you
her
done a
address?
Facebook
Yeah.
search?
Right, or sent a note. Oh, well, I don't want to do that. I don't really care that much, but she wanted to know. I was
I don't
like,
care that much. Well,
okay. So I got her somewhat satisfied. I did a quick search for the husband, and he had passed away, and she wasn't in the lady I was talking to was not in the obit, and she was one of his wives, and she didn't understand why she wasn't in the obit. And I said, well,
Why would you know?
because
Yeah.
well, and the obit, you have to understand when you look at any record, including obits, it's only as good as a person who's submitting the information.
Right.
right.
If you're part of the family history that they don't want you to be a part of, you're not
going
going
to
to be included.
Yeah,
Right.
right.
And so I had to explain to her that, well, whoever wrote the obit decides what goes in it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
You know,
not
try to
some mass
delicately say,
organization that
right,
decides.
right. And so I got her off the phone, and then I think 15, 20 minutes later, she calls back, and whoever I was working with answered. I was like, peace out. I am not answering the phone. And they ended up getting it, and she kind of shut her down a little quicker than I did. I guess I was more nice than she was. But I don't know what she finally ended up doing, if she reached out to the woman. But I'm like, you have an address and a phone number. Why don't you just call?
Right.
Right.
You can just call.
Do that first step.
Right?
Right. You can even prank
but
call
she
if you
didn't-
want. Just
But
see
she
if
didn't
answers.
care, but
Yeah.
she still
Yeah.
wanted to know. I'm like,
I'm
That's-
going to
that
go with you
involves
care.
some level of care.
right?
I'm going to go with you
Yeah.
care.
Right.
Yeah.
Because we've taken it beyond just searching on Facebook to see if the person exists. We've made a phone call to
Right.
someone to
Yeah.
go,
Yeah.
hey,
Yep.
I'm trying to dig into this person that I don't
Care about.
Right.
don't really
Yeah.
care about, but
Yeah.
I obviously want to snoop a little bit.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, we do get that though. Sometimes people will come in. They also want to see the phone book sometimes, which we don't have a copy of that. But
Yeah.
they like trying to find. Yes, I know. I'm going to start sending them to you.
We keep one
yeah.
or two now
We do
because
now
people are
because
like,
we have random. Yeah,
just,
No, we have a
we
bigger
need a phone
story.
book. And I'm like, why?
because they needed to look up somebody's personal
Address.
address because they didn't actually know where they were going. You're like,
Yeah.
I don't think I want to get involved. Just here
Right.
you go. Yeah.
You want to tell
We
us,
have-
Stacey?
Well, we
Yes.
have out in the Montana room. We have they have a whole slew of different phone
Probably
books.
300.
Yeah, from
Oh.
all different communities, and we actually have like the 1928 telephone book for Great Falls.
Wow.
And my grandparents, my grandpa, when he was a kid, he went to school here in Great Falls. And I actually I didn't think I would find them because they were rural, but they did have a house in town as well. And so they didn't have a phone, unfortunately, but it's a very delicate book that you open up. And I mean, people had phones. So even way back then, you can
Yeah.
find a person. So
No kidding.
I
Not
was
only-
watching a TV show. I think it was Ghosts, and it was about
love that show.
Hattie had like a phone, one of the first phones, and
Hattie,
she's
yeah.
like, my number's 4.
4.
Uh-huh.
So when we first moved here in 82, we were on a party line.
Oh.
And I was 12. I
Yep.
was an Air Force brat, so we lived on bases. I was in civilized, not out in the middle of nowhere, which I hated when we first moved here.
Yeah.
And I could not understand the concept that you have to pick up the phone
See if
and
anyone
see
else
if
is
anyone's
using.
on the phone, and then you can use it. Like I didn't
There's
understand
no privacy.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
that. Not good for a teenager.
No.
Can't use it yet.
Okay, so my nerdiness will come out a little bit here. Have you helped anybody in figuring out mysteries, or they discovered somebody was actually, a criminal, or helped somebody connect? Have you been involved in solving any crimes or cold case, anything like that?
Quietly, yes.
Ooh.
That's,
Ooh,
uh,
Jan,
those-
tell us everything.
those wonderful school censuses.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Well, a couple of years ago, as you probably heard, the sheriff's department here finally solved a 67-year-old
Yeah.
double murder.
I
One of the
didn't
ways in
hear
which
about
they had looked at DNA, they had proven the person who killed them, and that person was dead. But they were looking to make sure, they had a person in from the sheriff's office looking to make sure that, yes, those people had been around.
Huh.
I felt so proud because we
Huh.
used the school census records from October to prove in the timely fashion of the murder that the the person who committed the crime was there and the children were there.
You're an investigator. You
So-
helped solve a case.
It was so much fun. We
Yeah.
keep that quiet.
Right.
But yeah, we have things. I mean, one of the fun things in genealogy that we tell people is we'll have people say, well, I'm not sure I want to know everything about my family. We say, oh, yeah, you want to know all about the outlaws. You want to know all
Yeah.
the different things that happened. Or the latest thing today in DNA, if you're going to check your DNA or test it against other people, you need to realize that once the DNA has been checked, the only thing you can do is remove it quickly if you find something, because you might find out that you had a sibling you didn't know about,
Yeah.
or a niece that I found almost 7 years ago, and she is just one of my treasured friends.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Neat.
I think there's a lot of people who would love to see some skeletons come out of a closet.
I haven't had any yet. I'm still waiting.
Stacey's
Yeah.
like, dang it.
I'm pretty sure my family history is going to be pretty boring. No one's going to come out. I always joke with my mom. I'm like, oh, we should do some genealogy stuff and see if dad had any other children.
Yeah.
She's like, you know that's not going to happen. I'm like, I know, but I could dream. I
Yeah.
could dream
Right.
like
That's right.
I'd have this big story.
Yeah.
So
My dad was in the military and was stationed in Okinawa for a time.
Right. You're like, I've got
I asked him one time after we were watching
Do I have
60
other
Minutes
siblings?
or something, and they were talking about servicemen and kids
Yeah.
coming, and I turned to him and I said, so? He's like, what?
it's all right. Just tell me. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's one of the big things is when you start to dig, be open to the fact that you're not
yes.
going to
You might not
necessarily
like what
get
you
down
find.
a path that
Yeah.
Yeah.
matches what the story is that you've been told
Yeah.
Find
and-
out that grandma was your aunt,
Yeah.
great aunt, instead of your grandmother.
or
Yeah.
your sister.
Or,
Or
your,
a,
yep.
or a few weeks ago, a lady who shall remain unnamed came in, had been researching, and she said, my grandmother was prim and proper, and everything had to be just so in her house. And we had to behave in just a certain way, and certain topics were never talked about. Well, we found out why certain topics weren't talked about, because grandma had been married 3 times before her
Oh.
4th
Ooh.
marriage. That one
Wow.
was fun. They were
Yeah.
howling with laughter and phoning their cousins and telling them and saying, oh, so now we know what
Yeah.
is there. So, we warn them beforehand and help them work through things. Sometimes we even help people to find family who don't know
Mm.
who their family is.
So you're a counselor and sometimes too.
I
Yeah.
might come down for my husband because
Mm.
we have a friend. We have friends. That's not the total statement, but we have friends that turns out that somehow my husband and my friend's husband are related. Maybe just through marriage, but based on some of their behaviors, I'm starting to think maybe it's a little bit deeper than just a marriage relationship. Like I think there might be some genetics there.
Mm.
And so I'd love to be able to, because I know where the connection is, I'd love to be able to see, are they actually just cousins through marriage or are they legitimate cousins? Because I think there's a case to be made for the genetic
Wow.
connection. So
The MRCA, the most recent common ancestors, so you can look to
Oh.
see how they are related. And yes, you can do that. We take people from where they are right now and take them backward from that point, back through censuses, because we can find lots of people who were lost or that they didn't even know about, all the way back. There's just, we had a lady, honestly, years ago who came in and said, I'm pretty sure I'm related to Thomas Jefferson. Can you show me where I am related? We said, well, no. And she said, well, isn't this all done? I mean, just expecting that it would be done
Yep.
right down to her. And we said, well, no, we take you going back. And she says, oh, well, that takes a long time.
yeah,
Like,
it's a big path.
I don't just randomly have
Unless you land into somebody's tree that they've published online. But so Ancestry, if anyone has membership to that, you have the hints, the little
Yeah.
green leaf to
Yeah.
tell you things. And Family Search sort of does the same thing. They're a similar product. If you find a tree, that's great, but you have to go one step further. You need to look at the documents that they're attaching to that tree, and is it really that person? Your name might sound unusual, but maybe back in the day it wasn't unusual. So you need to make sure that you have the right John Smith. you might have somebody else that's not, same name and completely different. I've had that happen. So my grandma's maiden name was Gressel, and she grew up, lived in Milwaukee. I'm looking through Gressel's, and it was spelled multiple different ways. I find one, and I know that her father was a tailor, so I found birth records, and he's listed as a tailor. That's pretty consistent. I go to the city directories, and there's one he's not popping up, but there's another Gressel, similar spelling, and he's a butcher. I'm like, well, that's quite the segue from a tailor to a butcher. So I kind of keep him off to the side. I'm like, I'm going to start looking at you to see. It's a completely different family, but they were there at the exact same time. They were almost the exact same age.
Yep.
Wow.
And so you have to cross-reference what you find with other records. So while people are attaching records, and that's great, it's a great jumping off point, you have to do your due diligence and make sure that they're being accurate with their research as well.
This is where you need the human element and
That's
not
right.
just AI and computers, right? Yeah.
Because Family Search had me at one point related to Stephen Hopkins on the Mayflower.
Yeah.
Oh.
And when you look at the list, they don't have records attached to each of those people. Now I'm not. Now the newest I've gotten related to some other people on the Mayflower, but I need to do my due diligence to go backwards and say, am I really related to them, or are you just throwing in names just because it looks good?
And believe it or not, you can do that because records existed. I mean, when you've got a company like the Pilgrims and they're coming in, they have fantastic records. They kept very good records. And because so many people died the first year that they were here, they didn't have as many records to keep.
Easier to keep them that way.
Easier to keep them. But yeah, you can. We'll have one of our favorite stories. People come in and say, well, our name used to be, but they changed it at Ellis Island. False story.
Yeah.
False. No, we tell people, let's take a look at where they settled first and what they were actually using there as a name. What did they use first in taxes? What did they use? Whatever. Yes, occasionally you will find people changing their names, but not often. There's usually a real reason for it from, say, the country that they came from, or some other reason. Maybe, it didn't bother them a bit to take the wife's surname or whatever. So, but no, the thing with came into Ellis Island. People think everybody came into Ellis Island. Well, Ellis Island didn't even come into being until the late 1890s. We had at least 14 other major ports in the United States that people came through.
Yeah, you don't think about those. It's just Ellis Island. Yeah.
It's funny. The Facebook algorithm must know. I've been getting the same thing as genealogist. I'm trying to remember her name. Genealogist. Anyway, she's on Facebook. And she's a professional genealogist, and they are just talking about the myth of the name change, and it's like flat earther myth of genealogy world that they got their names changed. So when they came, the ship manifest was filled out in their native country or wherever they were coming from, and it was brought with them over. This is from Lewis Gates.
Yeah,
it was brought with them on the ship, and then they were registered here. So any name quote changes were not done here. They would have been done over there.
Yeah.
And then you have to think about when they're here, I'm coming from Germany. Maybe I have a thick accent. I can't speak English. I'm talking to somebody that is writing my name phonetically. So they're not going to be catching all the letters. I can't correct them because I can't read. So they're not name changes. They're variations in the name, in the spelling. So
it's
they're
like
not
communication.
It's a communication translation
or whatever.
issue, not an actual name change. So you have to look at, is it a name? It's not a name change. It's a variation of spelling.
We tell them to collect those.
Yeah.
For one family, Cogleiser, I have 26 variations.
Yeah, I could see this a name like that.
And they're all related.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Did you ever see? I'm going to share this story that I have like 2 pieces of information on that I need 25 pieces of information on. But I think there's some lore, and I've talked about it a little bit on the podcast before, of like the separation of names. So like a family came in and it's 2 brothers, and they took the first part of the name and the other brother took the last part of the name. So do you see, is that a myth? Is that something that's real?
That happens.
Okay.
I have Quist family, Rob Quist, etc. Rob and I are related to a Quist family that it came into Minnesota. One of the brothers at that name, we don't know why, but at that time, he took the name Rosenquist. Don't know why. Everyone else took Quist. But, and in the same neighborhood, in the same place. So there they were in...
I mean, I could imagine if you had a sibling that you didn't like very much or was vastly different than you, that you're like, yeah, I'm not going to
chance.
I'm going to be something a little bit different.
Yeah.
So people won't immediately associate me with that person.
Not super common, but we see it in the Quist reunions. We see the Rosenquists and the Quists all over. That's just one example of it. But yeah, it's families are neat. They are really neat things. And on the other hand, you'll have people say,
they're dirty too.
Yeah. You'll have families who separate, never talk to one another, and they'll say, "Well, later on, people will say, I don't know why we didn't, it just we just never got close." It happens.
Yeah.
I think some people really get interested in their lineage, and other people just don't.
Yeah.
My, and I've got an aunt in my family that years ago said that she doesn't want to go with history. Doesn't want to look at the history when my mom was really starting to gather information. And she's like, it's past. And I'm like, well, yes, that's true. But how did I get here?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I have a great grandmother that came with her brothers and had land out in Denton. And she was young. And I'm like, you traveled from Illinois to Montana and you had land as a single woman in the early 1900s. Like, seriously, how hard?
Tell me that story.
And the tenacity to do it.
Absolutely.
Because then I'm thinking, okay, you had that tenacity in your DNA and you've passed it to my grandmother and to my mom and to me. I have a part of that person.
Yeah.
That's why I'm here. So why would you not want to know
That's neat.
where these folks came from, and what their lives were like?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And the gossip columns.
And the gossip columns, yep. That's some great information in the gossip columns.
I do have to tell you, the small town newspapers
they're
that used to
hilarious.
do like
They're
content
awesome.
news, and you just had these independent reporters who'd call once a week, like, "Hey, what'd you do last week?" And it all shows up.
My
And it's
mom
just like
did
a
that.
stream of consciousness sort of coming out.
So
Yeah.
you can know.
My grandma did it. My mom did it for
Wow.
the Courier years ago.
I loved it because when I left for college, I'd get a subscription to the local paper. I'm like, I wonder what Gail and Leroy are up to. Like
my cousin would do that. My mom got her a subscription to the Courier, and she worked in the oil field. She is a geophysical engineer, and so they're out on oil rigs, and they can't have radio and television and that kind of thing. So she had the Courier. They got wrapped up apparently in the Castner Falls spray and what was happening in Cascade, and I'm like, you people need a life. Like, seriously.
When I was in college, I had a group of friends that when the paper would show up, they're like, "Oh, we need to know what's happening with these folks
So
today."
invested. It's like a soap opera of the town.
Because that's what it was. Like, who went to town?
Yeah.
Who was doing? Who went where? Oh, look at this!
Yeah.
They got tickets to they went on vacation to Hawaii.
Yeah.
Two 17-year-olds just got married.
Yeah. Oh, boy. My husband's family originally came over from Scotland and farmed in the Chester area, Liberty County. And someone, like one of the wives had died on, that's a whole other story, died on the property. But in the newspaper, it's just like, and, so-and-so Laird was found hanging in the barn. And then the next line's like, and bread at the store is this price. It's just like
Nice
a line of like
One line.
like one line of like so and so Laird was found hanging in the barn, and
Nobody
then they
can
just like move
find
on in the
themselves
next line.
hanging on themselves.
Right, and
It's like
you're like,
there's more to that
okay,
story.
yeah.
So now you need to find the coroner record because there was probably an inquest.
Yeah.
That would get you more information.
Or if there wasn't, the story thickens.
True.
Well, there's as you might guess, there's.
That's
Well, we
quite
found
the-
out that they were. It's going down a whole rabbit hole, but we found out the family didn't know they were married, but they were actually married, and it was not long after they had gotten married. So we don't know if she
Seems like
ended
there's
her
a
own life
screenwrite.
or
There's a
Wow.
screenplay here
Anyway,
waiting to be written.
But that inquest,
Yeah,
well, that's
tell you.
that's a good
Oh,
idea.
that's
We should
very
look into
cool.
that.
because if there's not an inquest, there's, if it wasn't suspicious enough, there's this thing called the coroner report
Yeah.
right beside it that says, okay, we didn't do an inquest, but we checked it. We said, the guy died from causes unknown.
Yeah. What about, this is a whole other conversation when we're running out of time, but what about, have you seen where birth or death certificates where things are like whited out or crossed out and then something else is written over it?
Only in another state.
Okay.
Only in another state. That was North Dakota. North Dakota's records come whited out in the whole area where the cause of death is.
Mm-hmm.
You're not permitted to see it. It's just kind of like Saskatchewan. They're the same. But most other places, it's, it's a matter of public record. I always tell people, let's go look at the laws and look at the latest thing.
Yeah.
And there's over 30 pages in our Montana codes right now covering birth, death, and then peripherally other things associated with death. Things like how do you donate a body to science? What do you do? I mean, there are laws.
Yeah.
And so you can look, because then you're going to have that idea of, okay, what does the local place have to have in place to be able to record that?
So
and is it public?
They're
public.
Yeah, that's all very fascinating. One of the other, I was thinking of this because I've seen this in a couple of scenarios, but one of the scenarios I was thinking about is, so Annie Busby, who was another one of the feisty women featured in the documentary, her family has been on this long quest and continuing to discover information about her. But Annie's son, I believe I'm getting this correct, Annie's son was just a real bugaboo, real troublemaker. He was sent to a boys' home, died in the boys' home. But on his, they think he fell downstairs or was pushed downstairs. I don't know. But on his death certificate has something that was then like crossed out and something else was put over it. And you're like, what actually happened? So I might have to send Dan down to talk to you.
The other thing that you'll see today, by the way, with that is in record keeping today, if there is something crossed out or whatever in the first place, that goes back to a checker, and they do a whole check of the record in the first place to make sure that it's filled out correctly or whatever, just so you know.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Ladies, I've had a blast.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
It's really nice when I have no idea what's going to happen. So I don't prepare questions normally, and it's even better because I'm like, oh, what about this? What about this? So, folks, if you want any kind of fun things, I'm telling you, if you've not gone on vacation and just went and looked at the community's historic annuals.
It makes me want to do that on the community site visit now because I'm like, ooh.
Well, because you get to see when trends happen, like fashion trends.
Yeah.
When they hit your town. Like we already know we're a little far behind. You get to document that in annual. It's like, I know what was happening here then. What was happening then, and kind of dig into that. But then we all know you have some connection to Great Falls and you want to learn a little bit more about the people you were involved in. Don't call us.
No.
Call Stacey.
If you want to know if somebody
you want to stalk your ex-husband's
who
new
lives
wife,
here?
right? Yeah. Stacey's your gal. You want to know if Shelly Anderson still lives in Great Falls? Don't call us.
No, we can't help
We're
you.
not going to tell you anything.
Stacey's like, I'm never answering the phone again.
Sorry,
Thank God for caller ID.
So, folks, another unique opportunity here in Great Falls, part of our museums and history component. Definitely an opportunity for you to dig into why you're connected to our community when you show up, because we know we have a lot of travelers who do that. They're here for you and obviously smarter than we are. Great opportunity. Thank you for being here. Folks, until we see your bright, smiling, happy, healthy, beautiful faces in our fair city, we do hope you're creating amazing memories with your friends and family wherever you might be. See you soon.
We're No Dam Experts is the recorded claims from Great Falls, Montana, covering what you need to know about this amazing damn town. Damn, that felt good.